Yeah, so today, let me actually introduce myself. I'm Nitin. I am a music producer, engineer. I work here at Grace Park as the recording mixing engineer. But I make my own music. I compose music. I make music for art films. I make music with other people, for other people, and wherever music is required, I kind of like button and do it. But I also do a lot of recording. I enjoy recording. I enjoy working with musicians, and interacting with them and trying to capture the performance and all of that. So today I'm just going to share a little bit about what I do, how I come up with ideas, and how I like to create with a blend of organic and electronic. Right? But before that, we will also see who a music producer is, right? Because I feel like a lot of times there is this big misconception of who the producer is, right? So we'll look at that. We'll see who the producer was, and now where it's gone to, how it's evolved. Okay, so the job of a producer has not really changed too much over the last few decades, right? A producer is basically someone who writes the music for an artist, right? He's like the technical. Oh, that's me. Sorry, that was a music producer. Right? He's the creative and technical head. Right? He gives direction, a sense of life to a melody, a song, right? Now, back in the day, record labels used to hire producers, and then they used to look at talent, which were the artists, and they'll be like, okay, now you work with this guy and make him whatever superhero, right? And they actually made really good music, unlike now where record labels all want just numbers and all of that, right? But that number system was there even then, right? People used to sell a lot of records, and they used to always tie music producers and artists together and be like, you work with this guy, right? Because this is a good combination, right? So that hasn't really changed, but now because of technology and how technology is evolved and how easily it is available, it's become more informal, it's become more closed. It's not a very professional environment anymore, if you want to call it that, right? So, and because of technology, there's also like a lot of steps that were done by a lot of different people now is done in-house by maybe one or two people, right? So mainly a music producer comes on board and just think of a song, keep the lead vocal. I'm primarily talking about, say, a pop song, right? It's easy to understand, all of us listen to it. Keep the lead vocal or the lead melody out of it. Everything else that you hear, right, which is the structure of the song, rhythm arrangement, the harmonic content, the chords, right, the interludes, what instruments should play, and how that song should sound, right? Now, a rock song cannot sound the same as, say, Blinding Lights. Now, where does that vision come from? It comes from the producer. Now, obviously, there is the artist who has written the song, and he's like, okay, so I want the song to sound like an 80s synth pop sound. But now the producer cannot make something that sounds exactly like Michael Jackson, right? Because that's the 80s. Now we're in the 2020s, right? So now the producer will be like, okay, so this is what you want, but what is the sound that is there today? Now, how do we bring this together? How do we get your vision? How do we get my view of what the music scene is as of today, and how do I combine it, right? So I feel there are different sections of production, or like different teams that work together to kind of get the production out to who work on that song, right? First of all, it's the composer, the person with the vision, the person with the initial idea, who's like, this is my melody, okay, this is a love song, this is my melody. Now, this is the vision I have for it. I want it to be an orchestral sounding symphonic sound, right? So he's the guy who has the initial vision, right? So usually composers have a lot of different parts that they've recorded, right? A lot of demo, scratch production that they've done just to formulate the idea, right? Because when you're releasing a song, it's just not you. Of course, for independent music, it's just you. But then if you're going more into the commercial era, then there's a lot of other people that you have to satisfy, right? Even if you're working with the record label has a specific, a specific want. They're like, okay, we need this type of a song, right? So this guy is going to start. He'll have the initial idea. He'll sell it to the record label, and then he'll hire people under him, right? So you have the programmer. Now you guys would have heard this. You would have seen in credits keyboard programming, right? A keyboard I feel keyboard programmer is such a small name. Like, I'd want to be called a producer. That sounds better than programmer. It's just like lame, right? But I guess when it's important to kind of distinguish, because the job roles kind of change, right? A programmer is basically a keyboard player he's basically very nerdy and has a lot of softwares that he works with, right? Yeah, please.
I'll go late for workshop.
No worries. We'll just start.
Okay.
Yeah. Just hot seat.
Okay.
Why don't you introduce yourself?
I'm Shubham Bolke. I'm doing music production for one year.
Okay.
I'm from Bhusawal.
Okay. What kind of music do you make?
EDM.
Okay. Nice.
I'm learning from YouTube actually.
Okay. Oh, that's good. That's nice. Nice to meet you. Anyway, so programmer, right? So he usually works under the guidance of someone bigger, who's the composer or the producer, right? The guy with the initial vision. So let's take an example of Blinding Lights. Okay, all of you have heard that song?
Yes.
Yeah, by The Weeknd. Puneet? No?
I'm blinded by the
Lights.
I'm so sorry. I listen to very different kind of things.
Okay, fine. It's okay. But that's been on like number one for 3 years.
You might have
For
heard
3
it.
years,
Yeah.
I might have heard it. It's a commercial, right?
Yeah.
I must have heard it.
You might
Sure.
yeah. Anyway. Okay, so that song was produced by, so it's first of all made by The Weeknd. He's the artist. He's the
Weeknd.
composer.
Achha, sorry. Okay.
Yeah. He's the composer, he's the writer. It's produced by this guy called Max Martin, okay, who's a legend. Any pop song that you've heard from the 90s still today is made by him. Everything. Can you name a few artists who he's produced?
He's worked with Ariana. He's worked with almost everyone.
That was...
Wait, let me think.
That's what I also said.
Oh, Ariana. Abhi worked with the Coldplay for the recent album.
Yeah, both the albums.
Yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
for Everyday also?
Yeah, every day also he made
Okay,
it.
okay.
Yeah.
And then The Weeknd, obviously the new one also, the new record. And
Ariana stuff.
Ariana's.
Backstreet Boys. Westlife. Blue. Like, anybody. Just take anyone from the...
Bruno Mars?
Huh?
Bruno Mars?
Bruno Mars, yeah, of course. He's produced a few tracks with it, right? He's been there in the industry for like 25 years now. And he's still making bangers. Like, the whole of the new Weeknd's album was made by him, right? So he's basically, so The Weeknd is the artist, composer, hires Max Martin, who's the producer. The label is still involved over here, right? The Weeknd runs his own label, so he can do whatever he wants. So there's no tension over there, right? Max Martin, so he's like, okay, so I want to make an 80s synth pop song, right? Now, Max Martin is like, okay, so this is the kind of beat I'm looking at, this is the kind of vibe we're going for, this is the rough production, what do you think about it? He's like, great. Now, the thing is, Max Martin has 4 more people working under him who are the programmers. So one guy will be great at making beats, right? He's a beat maker, has all the cool drops and samples and all that. The other guy is an expert keyboardist, right? He's very good at harmonic content. He's very good at playing chords and, coming up with nice pads and all of that stuff. And the other guy might be really good at sound design. So he might actually take The Weeknd's voice and actually chop it up and do weird things with it, right? And the other guy must just be a bassist, but he can actually program some really cool bass, right? So now what Max Martin is going to do is so now there are 5 people involved, right? Max Martin is the king, right? So now Max Martin is going to take all of these ideas, all of them will be working on separate things, right? They might also produce the whole song. They might actually have 6 different versions from 6 different people. But this guy is going to take it and he is going to chop, keep what works for the song, and he might actually change a few parts here and there, right? So you can already see how elaborated that process is. All of this is behind the scenes. All we see is the weekend, right? No one knows anything that happens behind this. So this is the reason why I was like, okay, let's actually first talk about the process. Who are the people involved, right? They really don't get any credit. And even if you go to Wikipedia, which is where you find all these credits, they are credited, but sometimes they're not. And that's where ghost production comes into play, right? They don't want their name in, but they're getting paid millions, so it doesn't matter, right? So, so these guys basically have a lot of nice, cool VSTs. They put in their sounds, okay? Next, we have the recording engineer. Now, you can kind of see that this is like the building blocks of where the song actually finally sounds like. Now, the recording engineer is, for me, I think, one of the most, or if not the most important person that determines what the sound sounds like at the source, right? Let's take the Weeknd's example again, okay? Obviously, the song doesn't have anything live, it's all programmed, it's all synth based. But the most important element is the vocals. Because the Weeknd is a pop artist, right? And his vocals, he's known for his vocals and his vocal production, his vocal technique, right? And his voice that people love, right? Now, Max Martin is going to go to the recording engineer and he'll be like, so we're going to make a synth pop sound. This is the range he's going to sing in. It's a soft song, right? It's not very aggressive. It's not on the face. He's not rapping. It's a melodious pop song. So now, like, the recording engineer is a super technical guy, right? He knows all the microphones and studio equipment, the studio room, all at the back of his head. He has everything on his fingertips. Okay, so now we have pop, the Weeknd's voice. The key is, say, A minor, whatever. So the range is slightly higher, right? Now immediately out of, say, he has 8 microphones to his collection, recording engineer is going to be like, okay, these 2 will work because the others are for whatever, rock vocals, gritty vocals, rap, this, that. This is a soft pop song. So I'm going to have 2 microphones, right? Now the microphone choice is very important to understand how a vocal works, right? Now I was working with Nida the other day, like last week we were tracking vocals here. And do you want to share your experience on how microphones change, especially when you're monitoring?
Yeah, so I've worked with I've used the 414 before over
Okay.
for one of my vocals, and then there was the other one. I don't know the name of the
47.
Yeah, so the 47,
Yeah.
and so we tried between the 47 and the warm audio.
No, 47 and the 87.
87, yeah. So I was so warm audio is the 87.
No, warm audio is the 47.
Is the 47. Okay.
It doesn't matter. Huh.
Yeah, so what happened is we worked with the 87 first and we were like, okay, let's see how it sounds on this, and immediately I could tell a difference between the 87 and the 47. Even while tracking, I could feel that I was enjoying my singing more when I was singing with the 87.
The 47.
The 47.
If it was the 87, then the whole recording was
so
alike.
different.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, so basically you can, even as a performer, you can feel the difference in the microphone, and also while you're singing, there are certain things you like more, like you like your highs a bit more, or like, there is the low end, and those small things come in which you realize while you're singing. You're like,
Correct.
okay. So I could,
Yeah.
I felt that the warm audio was able to do justice to
Correct.
what we were going for in the song.
Yeah. Definitely. Right. So it changes the whole thing. People might think any mic would work, just buy something $4,000, just record, ho jayega. I mean, ho jayega, but you won't sound like the Weeknd basically. No, you have to be the Weeknd for that, but it makes a difference. It really matters because you've hired a music producer to kind of shape the sonicality of the song, because not all pop songs sound the same, right? Now you need a technical guy to kind of align with that mindset of the producer and the artist, the sound that they're going for, and you have to deliver that. And not everything can be done in post, right? Which is very important. So you have to record it right. So recording engineer is super important, if not the most important person in kind of aligning everybody's sonical mindsets.
Is the choice of a mic very subjective to the texture of the singer?
The singer, the kind of song he's recording, the range of that song, right? And the room, yeah, it changes. Exactly, yeah. And sometimes what I have done is I've recorded few parts of the different mic and few parts of the different mic, you know. So all of that also changes. But again, that's not going to be a very common scenario. But it does matter with a lot of different things. Okay? We need someone to put all of these ideas together. There comes the mix engineer. Now, don't piss this guy off. he can literally, in a second, change your 6 months of hard work can go wrong. Okay? The final part, the final piece of your puzzle, of your song, is the mix engineer. It's sad to me today that there's not much importance given for mixing, right? Because you have so many different sonical ideas, right? You have the artist's vision of his voice needs to sound like, you know, like he's in space and all of that. And then you have the music producer who's like, oh, we need the kick punch on the face, and right? Now they're all very contradicting statements, right? You can't have the kick and the vocals up front, right? And then you have the record label who's like, oh, it needs to sound like some song that just came out last week, right? It should sound great on Instagram and TikTok and all of that, right? So there's so many different things. Now you need someone who can kind of take all of this, put it together in a package where it can, like, the song can satisfy 100 different people. Okay? Now the biggest people you want to satisfy is the audience, right? Now, even on a Spotify playlist, when you listen to something that's okay, decently mixed, and something that's from an international artist, you can easily tell a difference, right? Of course, that starts with the production, it starts with the artist vision, it starts with the musicians performing in the studio, it starts with the quality of recording and all of that. But then there is one guy who's actually putting it together, right? Finally, the mix engineer has a say in a lot of creative decisions as well. He can actually come and say if the artist says, I want my voice to have 100% reverb, mix engineer will actually give him a reason saying that that's not possible because you have 30 elements in your song and they all need that space, right? So he has a say in taking these creative decisions where, okay, so this is the tone they're going for, but how much of this tone can I actually give, right? So it's all connected to each other. No one can work independently. Okay? Now, coming to today's music production, you need someone who kind of has all these skills, right? It will really help you have an upper hand on understanding sound, right? You might be a really good pianist, but if you don't understand what kind of piano tone, not all pianos sound the same, what kind of piano tone will work for that specific song, then your song is not going to work, right? It's very important to understand sound, and from an engineering perspective, it's very important to understand music. Now, if you don't know what the range of a flute is, and the different kinds of flute, right, then how are you going to record it? Right? What are the mics are you going to choose? How are you going to place it in the mix if you don't understand what the frequency range is? Because you might have a vocal and you might have a flute and they're clashing with each other. And as a producer, in your bedroom, it might sound okay, but everything might be clipping, right? Which is not correct. So you need to have that basic understanding of, okay, so I'm using a flute which is playing, say, this, and I have my vocal melody here, and the flute is here. This doesn't work. It's going to sound like that. Maybe you can have the vocal melody here and have the flute here. There's your separation.
What are
Right?
you talking about? Keys? Octaves.
Octaves, yeah. Right? Because the flute can obviously go there. And the vocal melody can obviously come here, but the flute cannot come below because the range of the flute is not there. Right? Yeah.
Has there any time been a situation where you were recording something that you were probably not too familiar with?
Yeah.
And in terms of the sonic aspect of what the source sounded like, and if so, how did you tackle that or go around it and work with it?
I have faced it a lot, especially when you're a recording engineer. You face it a lot. Well, first thing I do is I do my homework. When someone books the studio, I ask what they're recording. So if they're going to record an instrument that I don't know, well, we have YouTube. So go listen to a recording of that instrument so you understand what it is. Then you get the demo of the song, right? And so once the producer comes in to record, and you just ask them, you're like, okay, so what is this? Where is this part? Is it a lead part? Is it a rhythm part? Is it going to be in the back? What is the role that it's playing? Because all of this matters on how you're going to record that instrument, how you're going to work with that instrument, right? Sorry. Then what I do is I come listen to that instrument. I come listen to that part in this room, because this is the room where we're going to record. If we're going to record it in B, then I go listen to it in that other studio, right? And because a sound interacts with its surroundings, right? No sound you ever hear is going to be from the source itself. Even my voice you're listening to is all bouncing off these walls and all this acoustic treatment over here, right? So then I understand what it is like. I ask the musician who's playing it, I'm like, what do you usually play with this instrument? What kind of instrument is it? What style of music is it used for? And can you just play that part? I also ask the musician, I'm like, where do people usually mic this instrument? Right? So there's your starting point. Then we mic it, we go listen to it. Then we take some points. If it sounds great, then good. If everybody in the room is happy, it's great. Sometimes they're happy, I'm not happy. Right? So then we kind of like discuss, have a very creative discussion. Okay, it's not like, oh, this thing sucks. No, it's never like that. If it is, then you've pissed me off. Right? Then you're not going to have a good output. So then I'll be like, so what? It could actually just be a simple octave thing. I'll be like, do you want to try taking it 2 octaves down? And let's try it out. Let everybody listen to it. If they're not happy, then we'll stick to what it is. Right? Same suggestion can come from the other side. Right? Okay? Can anyone name all the people in this? I mean, the first person, yeah.
Yeah, that was.
Okay. Anyone? Okay, so the second guy is Ian Kirkpatrick.
Okay.
He's the guy who's produced all of Dua Lipa's stuff, right? The third guy is Al Schmidt. He's a legendary record producer, engineer. He just passed away last year. And the fourth guy is one of the biggest mix engineers today. His name is Mike Spikes Tent or something. I forgot. Something like that. I don't know why he has it. The spike is always in quotes. Right? So he's mixed John Mayer, Coldplay, Ed Sheeran, everything. Okay? Anything you guys want to ask before we proceed?
So we are looking at the system, which is like pretty massive, and I have seen the same producers also working on a laptop in flight. Does it produce the same quality, or does it what does it have to do?
So it depends on which part of the production they're in, right? If it's going to be a mixing thing that they're doing on the
Not
laptop,
the mixing, just the production.
yeah, doesn't really matter.
Doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter. As long as you have the skills, you have the sounds, you have a good laptop, you can produce anywhere. Right? That's the point I'm trying to make now.
Right.
All of this has become one laptop and one small keyboard. But it would be better if you go beyond that, learn your music theory when you're making beats, right? And if you're just an engineer, learn music theory again. It'll take you a long way. And if you're just a musician, if you're a vocalist, learn about your voice. How does my voice actually sound in a recording? Right?
So, one more thing.
Yeah.
Now, sometimes when I listen to certain stuff, which is sonically, it gives you a very nice experience. For example, yesterday there was a song released by Guru Randhawa.
Okay.
Now, I'm sure he's spending a lot of money on his music. The same producer has produced other songs also. But now this one song that gives a better, it just sounds better, experience-wise. Is that purely the mix and master engineer's work, or that producer has given something extra to it?
It definitely starts on the producer side as well. 100%.
Okay.
Your mix is going to sound as good as your production.
Productions.
And your recording. And your master is going to sound as good as your mix.
I see. Okay.
And your recording is going to sound as good as your song. Initial idea. So it's all give and take.
Okay.
But if you learn a little bit about the other side of things, then you can make your initial composition sound as good as a mix. Right? So 70% of your work is done. The 30% you're giving it to a super professional mix engineer who's going to really sit in this really well treated room with all the experience that he has, and he's going to put it together. Right? A lot of the times what happens is, let's take for example low end, kick and bass. They are both in the same region, right? Now, if you choose your kick and bass correctly, then 30% of your song is going to sound much better already. Right? Now, you're not going to know that if you don't understand frequencies. Right? What's going to happen is going to come to the mix engineer, and the mixer is going to be like, okay, so we have a problem. I cannot mix this. Please change your kick. Right? A lot of the times that happens. I do that because it doesn't sit well in the song. Right? If you have a pop song and you need a nice punchy kick, it might sound punchy in your room with your monitors because your room is not treated and you don't have a very good listening position. But when you actually get it to a treated studio, you'll be like, oh, where is all that punch coming? It's not a pop song anymore then. Right? So it'll be easier to fill in those gaps yourself and then hand it over to a professional. And then the professional is just going to be like, okay, this sounds good enough, but I'll take it to the next level. Okay? Now, when I actually, I can give you a little bit of a background of how I actually got into doing this, right? As a kid, when I used to listen to music, even now, I always focus on the sonicality of the song, right? I never listen to the lyrics, ever, ever. If I really obsessively love that song, then I might okay, what is the song about? Otherwise I don't care, right? So I've kind of always been intrigued by this idea of sound Sonics, why does the kick sound so lame? That is the first thing that comes to my mind. Or I'm like, oh, that vocal reverb sounds amazing. But they've overdone it. Throw it out. Right? Like, even when I was a kid, I used to always recognize these sounds. And of course, I didn't know anything about reverb and all of that. Okay? So, I started playing keys. But my focus slowly changed into, shifted towards making a song. Right? Because I know, like, any musician knows that it's not just one person who's making everything. There's like 5 people, and I was like, I always want to be one of those 5 people who's like pushing the artist from the side and being like, okay, no, don't go here, go there, don't use this mic, so that's how I got into it, right? And I enjoy all 4 things, right? I really like making music, right? In my spare time, if my ears permit me, I just sit and play some random stuff on my piano and record voice notes, right? I really like finding weird sounds and programming stuff, right? I really love sound design. That's one of those things that I spend a lot of time on. I really like the engineering side of things. Like I said, I really like working with other musicians. And I always felt that as fun as it is sitting in your own bedroom, with all lights off, and you guys have seen that meme, right?
Sure.
There's an explosion outside, and then he just closes, and then he's like, right? As fun as that is, which I do a lot. It start at 10 in the morning, and next thing you know, it's 10 in the night, and I'm just like, right? When you work with other musicians, it's a different kind of energy. And the kind of, as a producer, as a programmer who makes beats and who's into electronic production, the kind of textures that you get from a live instrument is something that you just can't get by just programming stuff. It's not possible. And the kind of variety you get to explore. So, for me, when I make music, I feel like it's a way of exploring all my skills, right? I want to tap into everything, except for mastering, because I'm like, started with a heartbreak, I made the song, everything, now I want to just let it be. Huh?
Singing too.
No, singing, ghost singing. No one knows where I've sung what, but yeah, I have sung it. I don't like singing, so I'm not going to explore that skill, right? So, that's how I kind of like make music, and my music always has these 4 things tied together. These 4 people, right? And all these 4 people I look up to quite a bit. So that's why I found. Actually, I didn't find better pictures of the others, so I just put them. Cool. Now let's listen to some music, and I shall tell you where it started, how we went about doing it. Okay? I hope you guys have heard it. I shall play it again.